Here is something that the Euphoria press tour does not want you to notice. Zendaya's name is not in the Season 3 executive producer credits. Not buried at the bottom, not listed under a different title, just gone. The woman who co-built this show from the ground up, who shadowed Sam Levinson on set specifically to learn how to direct, who co-created an entire film with him during a global pandemic, who was so invested in this production that she went directly to HBO's chairman to demand answers when things started falling apart, her name is not on Season 3. Drake is on there, Ashley Levinson is on there, but not Zendaya. And before you tell yourself that's probably just a scheduling thing, credits in Hollywood are not scheduling conflicts. Credits are negotiated. Credits are deliberate. Credits are the industry's way of putting on paper exactly where the power sits. Someone made a decision, and that decision explains everything. The minimal promotion, the careful words, the conspicuous absence of the energy that Zendaya brings to literally every other project she touches. So let's talk about all of it, because the behind-the-scenes story of Euphoria Season 3 is considerably messier than HBO would like you to know. To understand where things went wrong, you have to go back to when things were genuinely right. Because in 2019, Zendaya and Sam Levinson were not just collaborators, they were creatively synchronized in a way that is actually rare in television. Levinson didn't just cast her, he built the show around her understanding of Rue. And Zendaya didn't just show up and perform, she became an executive producer. She got behind the camera. She absorbed every part of how this thing was made. Then, during the COVID lockdown, the two of them wrote, financed, and produced Malcolm and Marie together, the first Hollywood film created entirely during the pandemic. That is the level of trust and creative investment we are talking about. That's where the baseline was. And then, The Idol happened. If you mercifully missed The Idol, an HBO series starring The Weeknd that arrived, got annihilated by critics, and was canceled, here's the relevant part. Levinson was only supposed to be a producer on that show. But behind the scenes, things spiraled badly, and he ended up taking creative control of the entire production. While he was doing that, Euphoria Season 3 was sitting completely unattended. No momentum, no scripts, no progress, just waiting. By multiple accounts, Zendaya was furious. She had creative energy she wanted to pour into the next season. She had built her film career strategically around the gaps in Euphoria's production schedule. And now, she was frozen in place because her showrunner had deprioritized their show for a side project that was actively failing. She reportedly went directly to HBO chairman and CEO Casey Bloys and EVP of drama Francesca Orsi to ask why Levinson was being allowed to put Euphoria on the back burner. Think about what it takes to escalate to that level. That is not a frustrated actress venting to her publicist. That is someone who has run out of other options and is making a formal move. The relationship had deteriorated that far, that fast. But the problems weren't only about the Idol delays. The issues on the Euphoria set itself had been building for a long time and ran considerably deeper. Reports about the work environment described 15 to 18-hour shooting days, no proper shot lists, and a directing style built on pure instinct rather than structure, which sounds romantic when you describe it in a magazine profile and becomes an actual nightmare when you're the crew member on hour 16 with no idea what you're supposed to be filming. Background actors came forward alleging they were denied bathroom breaks during Season 2 production, denied adequate holding areas for hours on end. These were not minor complaints filed by people looking for attention. These were documented, specific allegations about a set that was not being run properly. And then, Kevin Tran died. Tran was an executive producer on the show, and by all accounts, one of the most genuinely well-liked people connected to the entire production. He was the operational anchor, the person who kept things functional when Levinson's creative chaos threatened to make the whole thing collapse. But before his death, something had already broken between him and Levinson. Their creative partnership had fractured severely enough that Tran's family reportedly barred Levinson and his wife from the funeral. Some sources suggested the financial and emotional pressure from their falling out had contributed to Tran overworking himself to a degree that damaged his health. That is how bad the situation had gotten behind closed doors. After Tran's passing, Levinson's wife Ashley stepped into the producer role, and that created a new set of problems immediately. Cast members clashed with Ashley repeatedly, morale deteriorated, and Zendaya, who had always been fiercely protective of this show and the people on it, allegedly made her position very clear. She did not want Ashley Levinson as the sole executive producer heading into season 3. Barbie Ferreira, who played Kat, walked off set twice during production. She's not in season 3. Storm Reed, who played Rue's younger sister, is also not returning. And Angus Cloud, the emotional center of that entire cast, the person every single person on that set describes as the glue that held everything together, passed away in 2023 at 25 years old from an accidental drug overdose. The grief that followed was real and it was heavy, and it left a hole in the production that no amount of restructuring or rewriting was ever going to fill. The scripts became their own separate disaster. They were delayed repeatedly, and when they finally arrived, they weren't landing. One pitch on the table was to have Rue become a private detective. Zendaya and HBO both rejected that immediately, which, correct. Zendaya then pitched Rue becoming a surrogate mother. That got turned down too. Months of back and forth, multiple rounds of rewrites, everyone trying to find something that actually worked, while the cast schedules were filling up at an accelerating rate. Jacob Elordi's career had detonated. Sydney Sweeney had become one of the most talked about actresses in Hollywood. Hunter Schafer was booking major projects. All of them were building serious momentum while still technically tethered to a show that could not get out of its own way. When Zendaya eventually spoke about season 3 on the Dune premiere red carpet, she told Variety that filming was a whirlwind, that she had to shoot 8 episodes in 4 months when it normally takes her 8. And then she said, "I hope it turns out beautifully." Read that sentence again. I hope it turns out beautifully. That is not how you talk about something you are excited about. That is how you talk about something you handed in, walked away from, and are genuinely uncertain about. Zendaya does not speak carelessly. Every word she gives in a public setting is measured. That sentence was measured. Do you think season 3 delivers, or has too much broken behind the scenes for the show to come back from it? Like the video if this breakdown gave you something the press tour wasn't going to, and subscribe so you're here when the next one drops. See you then.